So again, my name is Christine Griffin, and I am the regional coordinator for the Hands and Voices Western region. I'm also the board president for Washington Hands and Voices and our Guide by Your Side coordinator. We're going to get started pretty soon. I'm just wondering if there's anyone who has joined us who needs Spanish interpreting. All right. So again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've come to the right place. Tonight we're going to be sharing our Fostering Joy presentation. And we've got a fun experience for all of you. So I know that some of us need a little bit of joy these days. And so we're bringing it to you in your homes. And this is the very first Western region Hands and Voices event. And so the Western region is Arizona, California, Idaho, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. And we've pooled our talents and experiences together tonight to offer you this. So thanks everyone for our planning team. And thank you to our interpreter and our captioner and our Spanish interpreter as well. This is Christine. Just one more ask if anyone here needs Spanish interpreting.
Una pregunta más, si hay familias que necesitan interpretación en español, por favor déjenos saber por el chat o nomás pongan su micrófono y avísenos.
Great, thank you. Well, again, this is Beth. I am one of the presenters tonight. We wanted to welcome you all to the presentation, Fostering Joy. This is really about celebrating our children who are deaf and hard of hearing. Again, like Christine mentioned, this is hosted by our entire Western region. So we have many representatives from all of our states that are here with us tonight. Some of you might be here to kind of be looking at, what does fostering joy mean? You've never heard that term before, you want to learn more about it. Some of you might be professionals that work with kids and you want to know how to do it more, get that joy out of what we do in our jobs. And some of you might have been drawn in by our free drawing that we are offering tonight for free merchandise. So we will be talking about that later on in our presentation. Next slide, Cora. So Cora and I are going to start off with a little bit of background about ourselves. Again, my name is Beth, and I am the Guide by Your Side coordinator and a new Astra advocate for Nevada Hands and Voices. My husband, Josh, and I live in Las Vegas, and we have 3 wonderful kids. Lexi is 13, and she is our soccer superstar, as she wanted me to title her in this presentation. And she happens to be deaf and hard of hearing. I have an 11-year-old, Cole, who has typical hearing, and he is our middle child in every sense of the word. He is a film fanatic, and he just started middle school this year at a magnet school, so he is actually majoring in film studies. So that is what brings him joy, and I'm so happy for him right now that he gets to experience that. And then we have Harrison, who is 9. He is our reptile lover. As you can see, he is in camouflage, and he has chameleons on his ear molds. He loves reptiles that much. And he also happens to be deaf and hard of hearing. So a little bit about me and what brings me joy. I like hiking with my family. I love really cheesy Christmas movies. The cheesier, the better. And so right now I am in my prime of joy time because I have so much access to my movies. And as you can see from our pictures, I really like embarrassing my family and making them dress up in themed pictures. Again, my teenager was not very happy that I was highlighting her Yo Gabba Gabba phase in our first Halloween picture as a family of 5, but since she's a teenager, it's a little bit of getting back for making us dress like that for all those years. For those of you that know me, I kind of like to keep it real too. So when I talk about what brings me joy, I want to be honest and kind of say, when I started on this journey, I was not finding a lot of joy. I was really struggling with all of a sudden, my husband and I being outnumbered. We had 3 kids, 4 years old and under. I was suffering with some mild postpartum depression, and we found out the same day that our oldest and youngest both had their hearing loss. Our daughter was misdiagnosed when she was born, and so she went 4 years without being properly treated until our youngest was diagnosed at birth, and we got some more information on her and were able to get some accuracy. So again, it was not this pretty moment of, yay, this was so joyful. It sucked, to be quite honest, at the beginning. And I'm just sharing this because, again, I know a lot of families out there have shared the same thing, and I didn't know anybody at the beginning. I didn't know other people felt like this. So I just like to be able to share that a little bit with you. I didn't foster joy. I think joyful moments happened, and I tried to make it happen, but I didn't consciously look about celebrating things. The bottom 2 pictures are of my children getting their hearing devices on the same day. And again, we're smiling. I do find joy in those pictures, but what was not captured was me earlier that morning in a pile sobbing on the kitchen floor because I knew I was on this journey, but I did not want to be on it. That's reality. I shared those pictures on Facebook, but I didn't really share what was happening with me. Fast forward 9 years later, I'm part of the Fostering Joy team. So Hands and Voices does provide a lot of different things to get us and to really help celebrate that journey. And I'm really happy to be a part of these teams and really be able to foster that joy that I'm having right now. So I will pass it over to Cora and let her explain her backstory.
Hello, my name is Cora, and I am honored to share a brief introduction to my family and a little background on my involvement with Hands and Voices, and of course, spend the next 50 minutes or so with you. I was born on Guam. It's a small island near Japan, and I was primarily raised in Wichita, Kansas. In 1996, I moved to Southern California with my daughter, who was 5 years old at the time. A little after a year, while living in Los Angeles, I married my husband this year, and together we have 3 children. Our daughter is 29 years old. She has typical hearing, and we have 2 boys that are deaf and hard of hearing. They are 16 years old and 10 years old. My boys and I are active in Scouts, and they are passionate about gaming. I'm not so sure I'm passionate about them being passionate about gaming, but it sure does bring them a lot of joy. We are a multicultural family. My husband is an immigrant, and he moved from Pakistan to New York at the age of 15 with his 18-year-old brother. Together, alone, I may add. I am a proud grandma to Peyton and Tanner. My daughter, her husband, and their 2 children live in Kentucky. We miss them. I am a founding board member for California Hands and Voices, and I have served in many roles over the years, filling in wherever needed. And I'm currently the executive director. I'm a member of the Hands and Voices Fostering Joy core team and a mentor for the Hands and Voices Leader to Leader program. And for anyone that isn't familiar with either one of those programs, I encourage you to visit the Hands and Voices website and search those terms. So I share 4 photos with us today. My husband and I on our 20-year anniversary trip to Italy. My oldest son in the top, we had just finished a hike together. And then my daughter and my 2 grandkids in the corner. And then me, this is an old picture of us, but this is actually one of my favorite photos. You know, my youngest son back in the back, that is definitely his personality shining right through. So those are the photos I decided to share today. Next slide. So Fostering Joy is a project that started among a group of parents and professionals who recognize the pressure that we as parents often feel, especially early on in our journey. We must learn so many new skills and navigate complex systems, run to many appointments with medical providers, educators, audiologists, you name it, all extremely important. But somewhere in there also lies the need to just be, to simply be a parent, to simply enjoy our child and relish in the pure moments of joy. That is the foundation of fostering joy. This quote on this slide points to the research that supports our work. Our health and relationships are important. Next slide. So I mentioned there are some barriers to feeling joyful as a parent of any child, but today we're specifically talking about being a parent of a child who is deaf or hard of hearing. You likely have other examples that are listed in addition to what's listed on this slide, and we invite you to share some of those examples in the chat right now. Think back to when your child was identified as deaf or hard of hearing. What were some of the roadblocks that you experienced? What about now? What are some of the roadblocks that you're currently experiencing? We hope that you'll share some of those in the chat, so this can be an interactive conversation amongst all of us. We're going to use the chat feature tonight on 3 or 4 different occasions. So some of the roadblocks to joyful parenting that we have heard, many of us parent leaders, are advocating for our children's needs. So many appointments. I remember early on in this journey, my older son, he would have, 4 or 5 appointments a week. And other healthcare conditions. We know that a lot of our families have children that are deaf plus and have other healthcare conditions. Finances, work schedules, the needs of other kids in our family, the pressure to be our child's deaf and hard of hearing teacher and their parent and their, and online learning and those demands. And COVID stress. Those are some of the ones that a lot of us are experiencing right now. Yes, exactly. I see someone mentioning living in a rural community and having to travel far to specialists. I think each of our states have families that experience that. Somebody mentioned their child has a lot of other medical needs and it was really overwhelming in the beginning. Absolutely. Spouses, someone else mentioned spouses having a different idea of maybe how to raise their deaf or hard of hearing child. That happened in my family as well too, right? The dynamics of the marriage and the decisions that you make together. Online learning, absolutely. I like this one, explaining my child's diagnosis to family and friends. That's why it's important for us to be together, right? Like be with other parents, that there's no need to explain over and over and over again. At least that's what I get out of it. Beth mentioned getting accurate results. Yes, definitely. Going over and over again to appointments, trying to get more information. Communication, isolation, yes. Teenage years, yes, Maxine. Those teenage years. I've got a 16-year-old. I hear you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, those honest feelings and experiences. We really appreciate that. Next slide, please. So while the Fostering Joy core team, while we recognize that all of those roadblocks do exist, we also want to kind of help shift the attention from our child's deficit to our child's strengths and talents. Let's each take a moment and kind of picture in our mind for just a moment, what about your child brings you sheer joy? And I'm going to be silent for just a minute because I really want us to, picture that in our mind. Now I want us to hold on to that image and that feeling that's in our heart right now, because that's the reason that we're all together this evening. Next slide. Okay, while we're in that headspace of thinking about what about our child brings us joy, let's also take a moment and think about what brings us joy as a person. In your day-to-day life, what brings you joy? It may be hiking or painting or gardening. Our personal joy can come from anywhere, and each one of us is going to have a different answer. So are you ready to get up and move around a little bit? Who's ready? When I say go, each of us will go and find an item, any item that represents joy to us, and bring it back. And for those of you who enjoy bike riding or some other activity that's too heavy to carry, you can consider writing it down on a piece of paper or just imagining it in your mind. So when you get back to your computer, we'd like for you to put these 3 items into the chat. What is your item? Why did you choose that item? And how does it make you feel? Alrighty, ready, set, go. You only have 60 seconds. Oh, I had the Jeopardy tune and it's not playing. I was gonna have us listen to the Jeopardy tune for those 60 seconds. Can I share my bare feet? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's why I wish we were in the same space together. The Zoom will work. Zoom will work. Reading. Oh, I see a few people saying reading. My dog's leash so I can get outside every day. That's so sweet. Coffee time to just be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Me too. I start my day that way, just kind of in peace by myself. Reading books. I love to see that. As a matter of fact, I'll try to remember to include that in the notes that we're going to send out. Hands of Voices has a book club in case anyone is interested in that. Crafting and making jewelry, another reading. I love it. Oh, Beth, you're going to have to explain that. Pen and mug, because it makes me laugh no matter how hard I try to make things perfect. The fun in this
is my pin that says World's Okayest Mom that a friend gave me because I used to, we used to share the joy and the fumbling of trying to do spirit days in elementary school and always forgetting or having our kids call us halfway through because we forgot and they still want a costume. And then about a year later, my mom, who happens to be on this call, got me the same mug for Christmas, thinking it was hysterical. And I love it because it reminds me the fun is in the journey. It doesn't have to be the end product. Things don't have to be perfect, but my kids call me okay all the time. They're like, thanks, it's okay. I'm like, I just spent hours on a costume for you, but thanks for the okay. But that always makes me smile and laugh and reminds me of the fun times.
I love it. And I love the diverse answers we're getting. Again, another art. We have lots of crafters on the call. A wooden carved turtle from Hawaii and snorkeling. I love it. Playing with Legos. Weight in your workout. That's wonderful. It's good for your body and your soul and your mood. There you go. I love those answers. Alcohol inks. Hot coffee. Yeah, another mom after my own heart. I love it. Walking in nature. photo of my husband and I square dancing. Oh, nice. I love it. See, that was fun. That was fun. Now we're starting to get into the more of the meat of the presentation. So thank you for sharing that. So I think that the point of this particular slide is that the joy really wasn't about big memorable events for the most part. Rather, they were the happiness of simple everyday life, which leads to the next slide beautifully. Take it away, Beth.
Thank you. This is Beth. So again, Cora kind of talked about some of those roadblocks and how to start thinking about what brings us joy. So we wanted to touch about, this is about starting small and thinking simple. Fostering joy came about as an intentional practice of looking for and encouraging those joyful moments between the parents and their kids who are deaf and hard of hearing. Again, like we talked about, we all have joyful moments, but sometimes we're not intentional about it. And that's what we really want to start looking at and changing the way we look at things. Fostering Joy has put together some family tip sheets. We will be talking about that in a little while. But we also want to know with you guys, what kind of things bring you joy in a different way. So not the things that Cora just mentioned, what brings you that personal joy, but with your child, with parenting a child or working with a child that's deaf or hard of hearing, what are those things that bring you joy? So we are going to have you put it in the chat. Next slide, please. And while you guys are thinking about that kind of things, I'm going to give some examples of some of the tips that have been added to the tip sheets. And then again, that might help you guys get some ideas, and we'll be talking about yours as well. But some of the ones we've talked about are, again, deliberately scheduling time with your child. We spend a lot of time with our kids, and especially during the last 9 months, we've spent a lot of time with our kids. Sometimes it's just scheduling that time. Today I took one of my children out, my youngest. I just took him out to lunch today and really scheduled that time just with him. And that, even that time in the car alone talking and me hearing him and his voice really made a difference and brought a lot of joy. Getting outside. Studies have shown that nature is therapeutic. We all know this. But again, it doesn't have to be a week-long trip to a ski lodge. It could be a 5-minute walk around the block, on a nature scavenger hunt with your child. It could be, a play date at the park. But getting outside and really connecting to nature is one way for a lot of us that fosters joy. I see Turi added in the chats, cooking together, playing cribbage, and walking outside. Absolutely. Those designated times, that nature, all of that is just so important. There was one tip that was on the tip sheet when I was looking over it, and I really had a hard time with it at first, and it was connecting a joyful activity to an existing routine. And the example that the tip sheet had was, connecting a therapy session with a treat. And again, as I mentioned before, I was not really purposeful when my kids were younger and I was starting out on my journey. There were good things, but I didn't really connect it in this way. So I was trying to think back of what our family has done. And this picture of my daughter kept coming to mind, so I had to include it. When I look at this picture, I can kind of think of two different things. I can remember this was taken after her first appointment at Child Find, getting her first assessments done after she was identified. And I can choose to look at this picture and think, this was after 6 hours of tests for my 4-year-old. I had babies at home. I was missing them. I was, worried about them. I was worried about my daughter. She was frustrated. She was crying. I can think about that, or I can think about the ice cream and that smile on her face that it brought her, of connecting that. She doesn't remember what an awful day that was. She remembers that, her brother didn't get ice cream and she did. That's that kind of connecting that joyful activities together. We're also a family that we typically bring donuts to our IEPs every year for multiple reasons, but one of them is I want it to be joyful for my kids. They enjoy coming and bringing it. Of course, being online, my teenager she has her annual IEP next week to transition into high school, which I still can't believe. But since we can't share donuts with her teachers, she really politely asked if she and I could just go get Starbucks and, you know, make the teachers jealous. And I'm thinking, if it brings you joy, I'm all about it. So that works for us. I see baking, playing board games, Friday pizza, and movies. Those routines are so important. Catherine is saying volunteering at a local movie theater together, running the concessions, and then we get popcorn, soda, and watch the movies. What an amazing idea. How fun is that? Sitting on a couch, snuggling with my son and just talking about random things. Absolutely. All of these things are so, so important. It's purposeful. It's intentional. That's what we want to have happening. I think, you know, as we all know, self-care is a big buzzword, especially these days. But again, fostering joy doesn't have to be about the entire family when it comes to parenting also. Sometimes it's just about bringing that joy to us and then being able to fill from our own cups. One of the tips I had never thought about before was finding a joy buddy. I think we all sit on a lot of meetings and doesn't bring us a lot of joy sometimes in who we talk to. But I can also say, I know we have almost 30 participants on this call. I probably meet with half of these people on a regular basis, and these are my joy buddies right now. I can tell you a lot of these people, I go to meetings with a smile on my face, knowing that they are going to bring me joy. These are the people that I can call, and you know, we commit to that joy habit together. So I really love that one. One of the ones was also documenting frequently, and I really like the word document because I think this is a very personal thing. Journaling is one way to do it. I myself have never been a big journaler or doodler, or I am an awful artist, so I've never really documented things that way. I'm more of a post it on social media kind of a girl, but social media, photographs, whether you share it with friends and family or not, videos, journaling, all of that, to document and be able to express that gratitude, it really does rewire our brains to become more positive and to really foster that joy. I see a couple others here in the chat, eating dinner together as a family. As simple as that sounds, it is such a hard thing to accomplish, especially with, you know, multiple kids, growing families, kids getting older. I love that one. And again, I think sometimes some of us have to make it deliberate to actually eat dinner together. It's not natural for a lot of us. Turi says her daughter has a core group of 4 friends and their families are really joy buddies. Absolutely. I think it's wonderful. And you grow up with that, and our kids are seeing that. And now they're experiencing that, as a lot of our kids are young adults now. The last tip I wanted to touch on was really being conscious and reflecting on how far you've come in your journey. The last 2 pictures here are of my son, my youngest son. And I was really thinking about this again, as he has another IEP coming up. And the first picture was of him. It's the first time that I decided to bring him to his IEP. And it was his last IEP in early childhood. He had been in his preschool class for 2.5 years. We really just wanted to celebrate him moving on to kindergarten. So of course we brought the donuts and we brought all the treats and we got him a superhero cape. And you know, he lasted 5 minutes before he moved on to the Curious George on the computer game. But I look at this last picture, and that was him a year ago, the last time we were able to have our in-person IEP, advocating for himself, sitting at the head of the table in a room full of teachers and administrators and kind of dominating the conversation. One of the other things that I love, and again, this is just something that brings me joy, but because I encourage my own children to attend their IEPs starting young, there's 2 things that stick out for me that just bring me so much joy. One is the difference in the handwriting on the signature page. I make them, you know, they're a participant in their IEP, so they sign in. And just that alone, having document year after year after year and seeing that growth, to me, just makes me smile as a mom. But the other thing that always makes me giggle, and I don't know about the ages of everybody on this call, that the age of their kids, but in IEPs, there is a section where the student can give their preference and their likes. And I've noticed that as teachers have changed over the year, I think they've termed that differently. And I think one year he had a very black and white teacher, and she said, "What is your preference?" Which probably wouldn't be the terminology I would use with him if I was trying to get him to tell me some things that he likes and doesn't like. In all honesty, I think he's only heard the word preference when talking about how you like your steak done. So he just spoke up for himself and he said, "I prefer my steak medium well." That is forever documented in our IEP now. And that brings me so much joy. His humor, his honesty, his just his growth as a little boy growing up. I really love that. And I mean, I'm kind of a dork and I kind of like IEPs and I kind of like the data part of it, but I also am the mom that I want to look at an IEP and find actual joy in it. And those are the kind of things that for me, I really, really look forward to every year. So again, I'm like, my daughter's getting ready to make her statement of preference. I'm really interested to see what a 13-year-old puts down that's been online learning for 9 months, but we will see. So yes, next slide, please.
This slide, we're going to touch base on some of the resources that the Fostering Joy core team has been busy creating. Lots of tools that encourage parents to really focus on their own well-being and that of their child as well. Most of the resources listed on this slide are specific to Fostering Joy, but we really wanted to take a moment to highlight the other resources that may be helpful for your family. We're not going to go through and open each one of those this evening, but we will post all of them in the link, and then also later we'll have an opportunity for everyone to provide their email address, and we'll follow up and provide that. So the Hands and Voices Fostering Joy web page, the Fostering Joy Facebook group for families, and our Instagram page. We also have a family tip sheet that is in Spanish and English. And the tip sheets really include suggestions on activities like Beth mentioned, how just to slow down, create joy, spot joy. One of the examples was find something to be grateful for every day. The tip sheet is currently being translated into Somali, French, and Italian. If anyone on the call, I have to do a little plug. If anyone on the call is bilingual and interested in translating the parent sheet, please let us know. We would be thrilled to hear from you. Again, you can email any one of us or mention it in the chat. Our goal is to translate it into as many languages as we possibly can. And as mentioned a few times today, we have a new Fostering Joy journal that, well, let me hold off on that. We'll touch base on that pretty soon. And our professional team members are also creating a Fostering Joy tip sheet. And the Fostering Joy Facebook group was created, a space for families to come together and really celebrate and share stories of joy. However, we are parents. We understand the need to ask questions about education placement, resources, advocacy, and your local Hands and Voices chapter or other family-based organization is a great place to get those resources. So when you visit the Hands and Voices Facebook page, and if you go under chapters, you'll be able to scroll down and find the contact information for that. Hands and Voices also has several specialized Facebook groups for Spanish-speaking families, military families, families raising children who are deaf plus, and families who have children with unilateral hearing loss. And if for any reason, you're not able to connect with any of these resources, please feel free to reach out. We definitely want to make sure that everyone is connected to all the resources they need for their unique journey. Next slide, please. All righty, it's time for another interactive piece and to our presentation. And we are so excited to announce this first, that the Fostering Joy journal was developed by the Fostering Joy core team, and where you will have an opportunity to reflect, document, and celebrate the journey of raising your child. And the journal went live on the website today. The Fostering Joy Journal was created for parents and caregivers that have deaf and hard of hearing children to capture the joyful moments in their parenting journey. You'll respond to a series of daily prompts where you are encouraged to establish that intentional practice, like Beth mentioned earlier, and create a strong bond between parent and child, which of course has a positive impact on your child's emotional development and their well-being. We will also share a link to the website, but as promised tonight for your attendance, we are doing a drawing for the journal. 7, actually. We are giving away 7 copies of the journal. We're going to give away 1 for each one of the states within our region. And then we know we have families and professionals that are attending tonight from outside of our region, and we want you to have equal opportunities. So we'll be gifting 1 to someone from outside of our region. So Heidi, are you ready? For anyone who wants to be entered into the drawing, please right now go into the chat and put your name, your email, and what state you're from. The state is important, and your email is important because we need to follow up with you. So I hope we get lots of entries. I hope everyone enters. There we go. There we go. Here comes some. And while we're here, we also want to take the time to highlight our Facebook group. Most of us are probably familiar with our chapter's Facebook group, but the Fostering Joy project also has a closed Facebook group for families and an Instagram page. So for our professionals that are on the call, our Instagram page was created with you in mind. You are the reason that that page was established. In just a moment, after all of these entries come through, we'll make sure and put a link in the chat. And we would like for you to go and follow us right now, if you could. That would be great. And it'd be nice if you go back and look through all of the posts from November. We did a daily post of thankful and joyful throughout the month of November. And to see all of those quotes and those families, share from their heart what they were thankful for, it certainly will bring you joy. And parents on the call, if you are not a member of our closed Facebook group, we hope that you will join. And we will approve those requests right after this presentation. And as soon as you've been approved, we hope that you will introduce your family and visit often to share all of the magic of raising your child. And we did want to mention that we recently, for anyone we recently opened up the Facebook group to include family members. So please feel free to invite grandparents, for example, or anyone that spends a lot of time with your child, so that he or she can hear also those joyful stories and participate. So let's see, we may be, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to put the links for the Fostering Joy Instagram in the chat so that people can take an opportunity to join that right now, or follow that, I guess is the proper term for Instagram. And then I'm going to also add the Facebook page, or Facebook group, I'm sorry. The Facebook group will ask you a couple of questions. And, if you could please answer that, that'd be great. Like I said, we'll go ahead and approve everyone as soon as, we get this presentation wrapped up. So each one of us play an important role in this movement of fostering joy. So I just wanted to mention that when you comment, like, repost our Instagram messages, for example, and use that hashtag DHH Fostering Joy, that helps spread the movement. And so we thank everyone who has already done that and hope that everyone else will join in. So before we move on to the next slide, I just want to say thank you to everyone. I saw at least 22 entries come through, people who participated in the journal. So we thank you for that. And we will, Heidi captured all of those entries. We will do a random drawing and we will announce that on social media within the next few days. And we'll also contact the winners to make delivery arrangements. So, and if you haven't already had an opportunity to join the Facebook group and follow us on Instagram, I hope you will. All righty, thank you. Next slide, please.
This is Beth. So again, we've kind of talked about, as parents and professionals, identifying those roadblocks. We've talked about how to look for the joy, what sparks joy for you, how to bring joy and foster into your family. So the next part is kind of that call to action, and you can join the movement by becoming a joy ambassador. By doing that, you are not signing up to give a presentation like to an entire region or anything. This is really personal and kind of depending on where you are. Parents, chapter leaders, parent leaders, professionals, you all play an important part in this movement, and we would love for you to become a joy ambassador. Next slide, please. So again, this is really easy, and it's kind of whatever you want to do with it, you can do with it. One way you can become, can you go back, please? Thank you. One way to do that is to commit to sharing, if you are a parent, sharing your story, including those joys. It could be with another parent that you've met at an event. It could be with a service provider. It could be on a committee you serve on, but really bringing out that joyfulness that our kids bring. Like Cora just mentioned, help us to continue to grow the Fostering Joy pages with Facebook and Instagram. Again, especially with professionals, we meet professionals all the time that, again, I love the professionals that I work with, but sometimes they suck the joy out of this. It's just paperwork, sign here, initial here, meet this goal, don't meet this goal. Sometimes I want to slow down and be like, can you smile? Look at my kid. Like, this is fun. Inviting them to kind of experience that sometimes on the Instagram pages. Cora mentioned also our Facebook page is opened up to those immediate families. So again, grandparents, close family that you work with or that you are a part of and works with your child. Sometimes it's nice to, again, remember, that path that you've come down and really celebrate all of those milestones you have made. Maybe what sparks your joy is writing things. We're always looking for articles for the Communicator newspaper. We have a blog that we're always looking for articles for. And I actually just saw this posted today in the Fostering Joy Facebook page. The Odyssey, which is a yearly, I don't know what it's called, magazine. They were soliciting article submissions about fostering joy and raising kids with fostering joy. So again, if writing is your passion and that's something that sparks joy, there are opportunities. If presenting is more your jam, we welcome you. We have presented at national conferences. You could do it on a local level as far as workshops or through your school district or your local EDI team. Again, there's kind of no limit on what you can do. And on the website that Cora mentioned, the PowerPoints are on there. So for instance, when Cora and I were getting ready for this, the majority of this presentation was on there. We just adapted it to our needs and basically input our info. So again, you don't have to create all of this. It's really simple to do. But again, incorporating joy into our activities and events, as we're, most of us here are chapter leaders. Again, back in the day when we used to be able to do things and see people and have events in person, I know one of our parent guides that's on the call, she had initiated a joy box at one of our events, where as the parents came and signed in, they were able to write down something that brought them joy, put it in a box, and we had grand plans to, you know, display it and everything at our next event. And then clearly that didn't happen. But things like that, it's really about what you want to do with it, how you want to take it on. Again, whether you're a chapter leader or just a parent or a professional. It really is self-service. Again, the logo and the information is on the website, so you can go download the logo. If you want to make pins for all of your members, awesome. If you want to put it on a coffee mug and sell it as a fundraiser, or, you know, have it as giveaways, really you can do with it what you'd like. And then really it helps engage that conversation about this movement. And it really is a movement. We want the continuation of what's happening. So again, we've kind of talked about the pins a lot of times, and I think I saw Turi comment on it. Usually when we present at conferences and we'll have a table at the conferences or a booth, there's usually a bowl full of these adorable pins, and people wear it along, and then it kind of sparks that conversation. So again, we have a lot of us wearing those pins on their backpack or maybe name tags. So again, if anybody else has seen any of the Fostering Joy logos, I think that's great. One of the ideas that we had with the core team was putting it on a journal to maybe give to families. And then all of a sudden it was like, why don't we create a journal? And then it was like, through the wonderful Karen Putz, all of a sudden we had it at our fingertips. So it's really something fun that, again, you can use your creativity and use the needs of your chapter. If you are a chapter leader, you know, figure out where you can put it in there. Turi wears her pins to IEP meetings too. How fun. Bumper stickers, awesome. Great ideas. Next slide, please. So again, we kind of have, Cora, sorry, is this your slide? Okay, sorry, I got confused all of a sudden. So again, this is another interactive part in the chat. If you are a parent or a parent leader within, if you're a parent or a professional that works with kids, we'd like you to kind of just think about and share, if you would, how you're going to be intentional with this fostering joy in the next week or two. If you work with families, how are you going to kind of share this movement? If you're thinking about your own kids and your own family, maybe something from the tips, maybe something from another idea that somebody's posted. How do you want to be intentional in taking this movement to the next level for you? So you can put that in the chat. And then again, most of us here are chapter leaders. So start thinking about, how are we going to foster joy within our chapter or in our community in the next month? I know a lot of us, you know, again, unfortunately, we can't have in-person events right now. I know many of us are doing some holiday events, signing Santa, things like that. Do you have ideas that you can say, oh, I can wear my pin to that event? I can have, you know, a little poster saying, join the Facebook page. I can do this. So any ideas that you guys want to share? Because again, with this being a movement, with this being, if you want to be a joy ambassador, this is how we kind of keep this moving, how we spread it throughout our community. So I know I've had so many ideas in person. The online is hard. It's been really hard. Perfect. Oh, Cora's always got the great examples. Chapter newsletters, Facebook groups, advisory groups, the blog, absolutely. Maxine is saying, allow herself to spend more time at bedtime when we talk about our day. Absolutely. I swear, being home and not doing anything is more tiring than when I used to like carpool my kids around town all day long. It's really hard. And really being intentional and reflecting on your day, I think is an amazing tip. Turi wants to host a virtual dinner party. Awesome. We're in. Turi's good company for dinners. I like hanging out with her at conferences. Always good conversation. Yes, Oregon just had their family camp a couple weekends ago. So how fun was that? Great ideas to incorporate into online. So again, you might have ideas, you might be kind of, you certainly don't have to share thoughts, but again, that being intentional of what you want to take out of the fostering joy, I think is really, really what this movement is all about, and that's important. Next slide, please. Okay. So again, we kind of talked about, what is your takeaway from today? What is something you've learned? To get more information, obviously Cora and I are always around. We are more than happy to answer any questions. Any of the chapter leaders from the states have information on fostering joy, as well as our official contacts at headquarters through Fostering Joy. If you're a parent and you want to really jump into that parent ambassador role, Candace at Hands and Voices. And if you're a professional, we have Nicole Hutchinson and Amy, I never pronounce her name right, Schwarkowski. So again, those are great contacts. Before we kind of start wrapping it up, I know we had a poll that we were going to ask just to get some data from the parents that are here. So Christine, do you have that information, or was that Heidi?
Hi, this is Christine. I believe that Heidi or Liliana were going to do that, but I can certainly facilitate as well. Liliana, do you have those polls ready? Oh, there we go. So perfect. So go ahead, and we're just looking to see who's joining us or who has joined us tonight. Great. So it looks like we have kind of a tie between family members and family and professional combined. Oh, looks like we have family member and professional a little bit. Okay, so we've got 50% are family and professional. We have 11% professionals joining us, and then 39% of us are family members. So the next, let's see here. So we can go on to the next poll. All right, so how old is your deaf, hard of hearing child? So if you can check all that apply. Got a few people still checking their box. Right now we have most participants have children or a child who's deaf or hard of hearing, 5 and up. This is Christine. I love the chat. It's still going on, so that's awesome. So we're going to be closing the poll. If there's anyone else that wants to add a response before we end. Oh, we've got a few more.
This is Cora. We had a question in the chat if professionals should add the age group that they work with. So there may be a few more people adding.
Great, thank you, Cora. It looks like, as you can see, we have most of the people attending tonight have children or work with children ages 5 and up. And that's representative of 81% of our group tonight. So thank you so much for completing those polls.
this is Beth. If you could share the slide one more time, we're just going to kind of wrap it up. We definitely wanted to thank our interpreter and our captioner tonight. Been really helpful to have everybody here. Next slide, please.
This is our last slide, and just going off script, I just want to say thank you to my partner in crime tonight, Beth. It was certainly a pleasure to present with you. I have seen some chatter from other members of the Fostering Joy core team, so thank you for your support and being here. And thank you to everyone who came tonight. It was wonderful to be together, and I look forward to future opportunities to connect and share stories and be joyful together. So recently, and some of you may have seen us ask this question on social media, we asked parents, what does joy mean to you? Thank you, Turi. And they answered. We compiled all of those answers and we put it into a 7-minute video. So in closing tonight, we hope that you might sit back, relax, and enjoy this Fostering Joy video. And I'm also going to put a link in the chat where we will invite you to submit a quote and a photo answering that question. What does joy mean to you? And we will use those quotes and photos in future videos, presentations, and social media. This is another way to be a joy ambassador. So I will put the link in the chat really quick before we start the video, because this is important.
And this is Beth. While she's putting it in the chat, again, thank you all. I mimic Cora's thoughts about she's such a joy to work with. She's one of those joy buddies that I have found in the last couple of years that just, I really, really look forward to working with her. So when we had this opportunity to share with the regions, we're like, yes, we're on it. So thank you for allowing us to present with you guys. And again, we know it's the top of the hour. If you have seen this before, we invite you to stay or feel free to go. But again, we really appreciate everybody's presence here. And I know we can't see everybody's smiling faces, but we kind of saw people joining. So we really appreciate the joy you guys spread to our community as well. So thank you.
All righty. So again, just want to say one more time, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you for being a joy ambassador in your own family, in your school, in your community, and within your Hands and Voices chapter. So have a great day and goodbye. And here is this short video. Liliana, I believe, is going to play it. If anybody's still here, thank you for participating tonight. It was wonderful to have you, and stay tuned for future collaborative events with the Western region. Hey, Turi. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.